Hello, my name is Quinn. I'm going to be discussing normalizing therapy. So, someone once said I'm not afraid of asking for help. The fear is of not getting it even after. So, in my speech, I will cover various aspects of mental health and we'll discuss issues surrounding resources, including acceptance when asking for help from others. In my own personal experience, I struggled with reaching out for years and asking for help from others and wish that it was an openly discussed issue. Overall, the importance of this speech is to normalize the need for going to therapy. My first point will be discussing the importance of mental health awareness, and then my second one will refer to the access to resources, and my last will cover support from others when seeking therapy or mental health services. So, jumping right into my speech, I want to elaborate on my first point. In order to talk about this subject, I want to discuss the significant rates of suicide, depression, and anxiety. So look at anxiety rates. The CDC provided that the percentage of adults age 18 and over with regular feelings of worry, nervousness, or anxiety is 11.2%. And then I want to look at this graph real quickly that the CDC provided that from 1999 through 2018, the suicide rate increased from 35% from 10.5 per 100,000 to 14.2 per 100,000, which you can see on the black line right here, which shows this growing rate. And then concluding that, so suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in all ages in the U.S. The CDC reported that about 1 out of every 6 adults will have depression in last year, or in their timeline. Depression affects about 16 million Americans each year. So as we see from the CDC, we see significant amounts of growing rates for mental illness. This will continue to grow and worsen without treatment or access to these resources and normalization over this. So just considering those suicide rates that have significant increases over the last 20 years shows us such a shocking rate that needs to be addressed so people don't feel the need to go to drastic measures such as ending their life and providing them with sources that can give them a prosperous life. After discussing the growing statistics around mental health, I want to transition into my second point, addressing access to resources. In order to better address the normalization over therapy, I want us to examine the data and statistics around access to treatment and resources. So the American Psychological Association performed a study that resulted in 48% of those polled reported a visit to a mental health professional in the last year, which shows that almost half of the people represented in this study are seeking help for mental health issues. This study also showed that 87% of those polled pointed to lack of insurance coverage as a barrier to seeking treatment, and 81% pointed towards cost concerns as well. So as we see, the lack of insurance results in people not being able to afford mental health services, and then even people with health insurance also struggled with this not being a part of their coverage, and continuing the issues of lack of access and lack of support in this area. So, which is a necessity and needs to be a part of coverage and a part of everyday life, because it's just as important as our physical health services. With the lack of with the lack of resourcing, then we're going to transition to the lack of support in our area. So finally, I want to cover how support of others plays a role in getting rid of the stigma around therapy and the stigma around asking for help. For many years, I remember struggling with depression and anxiety, and never felt like it was something I could talk about. I couldn't speak with others, including my family or my friends. The topic of mental health and therapy was never a topic discussed in my house, and no one I really knew even discussed their experience with it. Many of us, including myself, were taught to appear as a strong person that didn't share their emotions. So then, in the study I mentioned above, they reported that 47% said that the stigma surrounding mental health services has decreased in recent years. Even though we see in the study the decreasing amount, this this study did show that only half of the people represented in this study felt that way. We're still leaving out another half of the population that doesn't feel this way, which causes for concern because people need access to this service and it needs to be more openly accessible and talked about. Even though there's less stigma, there needs to be a greater awareness and open discussion between our family community, our friend community, and our society as a whole. That way we can help support and encourage people to go seek healthcare services and treatment. To reiterate my first point, discuss the issue with growing rates of mental health illness and mental health importance. In my second point, I provided the statistics surrounding the lack of resourcing and access to mental health services. Finally, I covered how the support from family, friends in the community contributes to seeking out help and therapy. This speech covered the reasons behind why we need to normalize and end the stigma around recovery, therapy, and mental health services. In conclusion, I want you to remember how in the darkest moments, people around us can make the largest change in the time of someone suffering, and with the smallest efforts of supporting and helping us seek help and us helping others do the same. Thank you.